The smoke rose like a dark, violent river against the early afternoon sky, twisting upward in frantic spirals as if the heavens themselves were being burned open. People screamed, alarms wailed, and shattered glass glittered across the pavement like broken stars. Amid the chaos, one man ran toward the flames instead of away from them. His name was Aaron Hale. A 34-year-old single father with tired eyes, callous hands, and a heart that had learned to endure more pain than most men ever would. And inside the burning building 7 floors up was the woman everyone believed untouchable, unapproachable, powerful beyond reason. CEO Serena Vale, a woman known for her steel backbone, pristine reputation, and walls so high no one had ever climbed them. But today, those walls were on fire. And Aaron was the only one who went inside. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet bravery of ordinary people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Love in Motion. It helps more hearts find these stories. Aaron had never imagined himself a hero. He woke up every day before sunrise, packed his 6-year-old daughter Clara's lunch, fed their aging dog, and headed to whatever construction shift he could find. Life hadn't been soft on him. His wife's sudden passing left both a wound and a silent home behind. Bills piled up like winter snow, jobs came and went, and the world did. Pause for a man trying to figure out how to raise a child alone. But somewhere in him was a grit that refused to die, a devotion sharpened by responsibility. That day, he had simply come to fix an elevator panel in the lower lobby of Vale Enterprises headquarters. It should have been an ordinary day. But fate rarely announces the moments that change everything. When the explosion shook the ground, Aaron didn't hesitate. The force knocked people to their knees, glass rained downward, and flames burst like a violent blossom. Employees scrambled, terrified, desperate to escape as the fire ate through the corridors. But over the hysteria, through the thick smoke curling downward from the higher floors, Aaron heard something faint, something small and human. It was a single cry, one that did not belong to the roaring inferno, and that was all it took. Without thinking twice, he grabbed a soaked cloth from a nearby cleaning cart, tore off his jacket to wrap his hands, and charged up the emergency stairwell through the rising smoke. The hallways burned with a heat that felt alive, gnawing, breathing, hunting. Flames licked up the walls like hungry serpents. The air thickened into a suffocating cloud of toxins. But Aaron pushed through every choking breath, every crushing wave of heat. He only knew 2 things. Someone needed help, and he was there. When he found Serena Vale, she was half-conscious, collapsed near a fallen beam that had trapped her leg. She was disheveled, her usually flawless appearance replaced by ash-smudged cheeks, torn clothing, and trembling breath. The fierce CEO, whose confidence had built an empire, was unrecognizable, vulnerable in a way that made Aaron's heart tighten. He lifted the beam with all the strength he could summon, ignoring the searing pain in his arms, and pulled her free. Her hand clung weakly to his shirt as he lifted her into his arms, her head resting against his shoulder, her breath shallow against his neck. The flames roared harder, as if trying to swallow them, but Aaron ran down the stairs, through falling embers, past crumbling walls, every instinct focused on keeping her safe. When he finally burst out through the emergency exit into the daylight, the crowd gasped. Firefighters rushed to them, paramedics sprinting forward with stretchers. But before they took her from his arms, Serena stirred, her eyes fluttering open, and her first words made Aaron freeze, because she didn't ask who he was. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't ask about her building or her company. Instead, with a tremble in her voice and tears she hadn't allowed anyone to see in years, she whispered something Aaron never expected. From that moment, everything began to change slowly, painfully, and beautifully. In the days that followed the fire, news channels praised the unidentified man who had saved Serena Vale's life. They spoke of heroism, of courage, of sacrifice. Yet Aaron remained silent, uninterested in attention, returning to his life of lunchboxes, school runs, and scraping together enough for utilities. He never told anyone that he was the one who carried the CEO out of the flames. But Serena remembered him vividly. The moment she regained consciousness that day, she saw not just a man, but something she had long forgotten existed: pure, selfless humanity. Her whispered words that day replayed in her mind constantly. They weren't planned, they weren't polished, they had slipped out from a place she rarely touched. She had said, "Why? Why would you come back for someone like me? It revealed her fear that her success had built a world where people followed her because they had to, not because they cared. And Aaron's simple, instinctive act shattered that cold certainty. When her company failed to identify her rescuer, she became restless. She insisted on finding him, not for publicity, but for a reason she didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Aaron continued piecing together his fragile life, unaware that fate was weaving their stories together with threads neither could see. Weeks later, when Serena finally found him, it happened in the most unexpected way. She didn't send security or assistance. She showed up herself at the small community repair yard where Aaron worked part-time. Daylight poured across the concrete floor as she stepped inside, dressed modestly now, her hair tied back in a simple ponytail, her face softer without the usual corporate armor. The moment Aaron looked up and saw her, he nearly dropped the metal panel he was carrying. She approached him slowly, as though respecting the invisible space he had built around his fragile life. The conversation wasn't grand, it wasn't dramatic. It was two wounded people standing on the same ground for the first time. She thanked him with a sincerity that made him uncomfortable. Then she asked about him, his life, his daughter, his challenges. It stunned Aaron, because no one in years had asked how he was doing, not in a way that invited honesty. Their worlds were galaxies apart. Yet something gentle and magnetic began to form between them. The next steps weren't perfect. Their lives were still complicated, full of responsibilities and fears. But for the first time in years, both allowed themselves to imagine a world where their wounds didn't isolate them but united them. A world where hope didn't feel dangerous. A world where the fire that nearly took everything away had instead given them something rare and unexpected, someone who understood. Their story became one of quiet rebuilding, slow healing, gentle courage. Aaron learned that he deserved more than survival, he deserved connection. Serena learned that strength wasn't only about independence. Sometimes it was about letting someone in, and neither would forget the smoke-filled stairwell where two strangers' lives collided. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Love in Motion. Your engagement helps these emotional stories reach more people who need them. Before we close, please comment one thing this story made you feel. Just one word, it means more than you know.